My name is Bailey Morgan. I'm 32 years old and a single mother of a bright and curious child named Eli. I work 2 jobs and do late-night freelance work to make ends meet. Life isn't easy, but I've built a quiet strength from the fragments others tried to break. The night that changed everything began at my cousin's engagement dinner. Madison Clark was the bride, stunning, lovely, and almost glowing in a satin dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I hadn't spoken to her in 6 months. Not since she joked about my diapers and regrets at a baby shower. I ignored it and then smiled to keep the peace, but the sting never went away. So when I received the invitation, a cream-colored card with gold lettering, absolutely ostentatious, I hesitated. My mom called me 3 times to go. Just come, Bailey. Smile. Be polite. Don't make a scene. That was her constant advice. So I went for the show, for Allie. I found my best dress, a little wrinkled and a little tight, borrowed heels from a neighbor, and let Allie choose the necklace. She chose a silver heart, saying it looked like her heart. We walked into that posh restaurant, white tablecloths, dim lights, wine glasses like crystal trophies, and I could already feel it. The tension behind the fake smiles, the refined decisions, and everyone's pre-assigned roles. But that night, I didn't know I wouldn't leave that room broken. I wouldn't back down. The joke would change. The room would turn. And for the first time in a long time, someone would finally stand up. Not for some idealized image, but for the truth. Madison and I had been very close as children. But between college admissions and family reunions, she became a girl from her heyday, and I became a silent disappointment. She graduated with honors, traveled the world, and dated successful men. I got pregnant at 23, raised a child alone, and started over countless times. The difference between us wasn't just life decisions, but also how our families told our stories. Madison was the success. I was the example of what not to be. At dinner, I sat in the far corner of the long table next to my mom and Aunt Lorraine, who spent the first 10 minutes showing me Halloween pictures of their dog and pretending I was nothing more than Ella's mom. Madison strode around the room with a regal air kiss and casual compliments. She barely acknowledged me. When she did, it was with a sharp politeness that seemed more like a taunt than a gesture. "Did you come alone?" she asked, raising her eyebrows. I replied stoically, "Just me and Ellie." "Oh, the kids' table is over there," she said, and turned away before I could answer. My mother leaned in and whispered, "Just keep your head down. You look good tonight." Not beautiful. I'm not proud of you. Just good. As if that's all a single mother should be. Happy, calm, and forgettable. I tried to blend in with her to get through the evening. Ellie sat at the kids' table, drawing spaceships on napkins and giggling with strangers in a way only children can. Meanwhile, I buttered up and smiled, while also dealing with the superficial conversation and politeness of relatives who hadn't called me in years, but still thought they knew what was best for my life. Beneath those clinking glasses and prearranged toasts, there was a sense of judgment. Every word, every glance reminded me that I was being tolerated, not accepted. The fact that I worked late into the night and came home to read stories and check bills before bed was meaningless to them. I wasn't worth telling a story. I was a warning given behind closed doors. Still, I sat there. For Ellie, for the girl I used to be, who thought families were safe spaces. I kept thinking that maybe if I smiled enough, played hard enough, someone would finally notice me. But deep inside, I knew otherwise. These people didn't want to see me. They wanted me to be quiet. They wanted to keep me small. And for too long, that's exactly what I had given them. That moment came during the main course, right after the plates were cleared and the wine glasses refilled. Madison stood with her usual grace, tapping her champagne bottle with a silver fork, her diamond ring catching the light like a camera flash. All eyes turned to her. "I just want to say," she said with a conciliatory smile, "I'm so grateful I've received so much love tonight." Polite applause. A few quiet cheers. Then she slowly turned her gaze to me. "Hopefully," she said with a soft laugh, "I never end up like those people who are raising kids alone at 30. The whole room erupted in laughter. Not the kind of awkward laughter that comes out when someone crosses the line. Real laughter, loud, spontaneous, cruel. My uncle, her father, patted the table and said, "You know what they say, men don't want old things. That's just the way it is." My mother laughed softly too, covering her mouth with her hand as if the pain had subsided. I sat rooted to the spot. My skin burned. My heart pounded in my chest, as if it were about to race. I lowered my eyes, clutching my napkin under the table so tightly that the cloth crumpled into a knot. Across the room, Eli was still building his spaceship, oblivious. I wanted to disappear. Not a single person spoke. Not a single voice said, "That's enough." Even those who looked uncomfortable said nothing, because it was easier to do. Because I had been cast in this role, this mistake, for so long, a warning that it would be inconvenient to challenge it now. Madison, satisfied with the laughter, moved on. She made another joke about how Dylan had to give up video games and wouldn't be able to stay at the wedding if she told him what to wear. This time the laughter was less intense. A few people shifted in their chairs, but still no one interrupted. My aunt leaned over and whispered, "Oh, honey, don't take it to heart. Madison just loves being the center of attention." But it wasn't about attention. It was about power. It was about reminding everyone that I didn't belong anywhere. I felt like a ghost sitting in that chair scene, not a human being. My worth had been reduced to a mere joke. My entire life had been reduced to a laughingstock, and for a moment, I thought about getting up, saying something sharp, and storming off in a blaze of righteous anger. But I didn't. Not yet. I looked around the table and saw the faces of the people who had claimed to love me. And I realized their love came with conditions, with silence, with shame. So I sat there, my hands shaking, my chest heaving, my mind screaming, while my face remained stoic. I reminded myself, I am not what they say. I thought of Eli, just steps away, safe in his own little world of colored pencils and wires. And I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't let their jokes change who I am. I didn't know it then, but someone else in that room had heard everything. And he wasn't going to keep quiet. The room was still buzzing with low laughter and whispers when Dylan, Madison's fiancé, stood up. He didn't say anything at first, just pushed his chair back and started walking, not toward the bathroom or the bar, but toward me. The chairs stopped moving. The hooks froze in mid-sentence. Madison stopped mid-sentence, her eyes narrowing as he passed. He walked the length of the table and stopped right next to me. "I think they might have found out something," he said. Silence. Real silence. The kind of silence that thickens the air and takes away your breath. Madison blinked rapidly in confusion. My Uncle Reuben lowered his glass. My mother finally looked at me instead of at me. Dylan turned to the room, his voice quiet but firm. "Tessa," he said, addressing Madison by her middle name. "It wasn't just a joke. It was cruel." She tried to interrupt, but he raised his hand. "No, I need to say this." He looked around, making eye contact with those who had been laughing moments earlier. "You all treat Bailey like she's some kind of failure, like her life is worth making fun of. But you don't know that she's the strongest person in this room." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. 2 years ago, Dylan continued, I was fired from my job. I spiraled into a state of devastation, spiraled into depression, and started drinking excessively. Madison told me to snap out of it. Reuben told me to stop being weak, but Bailey kept checking on me every week. Nothing happened. She didn't just say kind words. She gave me her time. She helped rewrite my resume. She introduced me to someone she knew. She even babysat my niece so I could go to a job interview. He turned to me. "You didn't know me well, but you showed up when no one else did. You got me through a tough time. You didn't want credit. You didn't expect praise. You just helped." He turned to the crowd. "So when you laugh at her, you're not just laughing at a single mother. You're making fun of the person who helped me rebuild my life. You're making fun of real strength." The silence deepened. Madison stood up, her voice rising. "What are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth," Dylan said, lowering his voice as well. "I've smiled enough tonight amid superficial compliments and artificial toasts. But I'm not going to sit here and let you slander a good man just to brag about yourself." His eyes narrowed. Are you trying to embarrass me? No, he said. You did that to yourself. A few people looked away. A cousin stared into her wine glass as if it held all the answers. My Uncle Reuben's face turned red. My mother sat with her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Then Madison asked the question everyone else was silently pondering. Do you have feelings for her? Dylan looked at her as if he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. I have respect for her. Deep respect. And if you spend less time pretending to be perfect and more time listening, maybe you'll understand why it matters. Her words that night were deeper than anything else. Because it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about values, what we choose to defend and what we choose to laugh at. What kind of people do we celebrate and what kind of people do we ignore? I glanced around the table. No one dared to speak. The decision that had once been so powerful now hung like a fog in the air, broken only by Dylan's silent defiance. And at that moment I realized something. For the first time in my adult life, someone had stood up for me. Not in a text later, not behind closed doors. In front of everyone. He had taken the focus off my embarrassment and shone a light on their cruelty. And now I was no longer an issue. After Dylan's words, the entire room seemed to freeze. No more laughter. No more clinking glasses. Just a deep silence that seemed to echo against every wall. Madison stood, arms crossed, face taut with anger. She searched the room for any support that could save her from this humiliation, but no one moved. No one supported her. My Uncle Reuben finally muttered, "He's just emotional. Don't take it so seriously." But Dylan didn't even look at them. He kept his gaze fixed on the people at the table. "You want to talk about feelings?" she asked. "Let's talk about raising a child alone. Working 2 jobs. Giving your time to someone else without asking for anything in return. That's not weakness. That's strength." Madison narrowed her eyes. "You're making this about that." "No," she said softly. "You've already done that. I just won't let you do that." Then he turned to me. "You didn't deserve it," he said softly. "Nothing." My throat choked. I probably wanted to say thank you, but nothing came out. So I nodded. That was all I could manage. And that was enough. Then my mother looked at me. Really looked. For the first time, there was something in her eyes that resembled regret. Maybe she finally understood what her silence had meant. I didn't expect an apology. Not from her, not from Madison, not from anyone. But I felt like the first breath after being underwater for so long had changed something. Dylan didn't touch me. He didn't even try to save me. He just stood close enough to say, without saying a word, "You're not alone." And in that silence, in the tension that had finally broken, I saw something deeper than revenge. I saw recognition. They hadn't broken me. They had simply revealed themselves. And for once, I didn't shrink. I didn't retreat. I sat up taller in my chair than ever before. I stood, not angry, not ashamed, just steady. I looked around the table at the faces that had laughed at me, teased me, ignored me. I saw Madison sitting stiffly, her cheeks flushed not with shame, but with anger. Reuben reached for his wine, as if nothing mattered. My mother stared at her glass, her fingers trembling. But I wasn't there for her anymore. I turned to Ollie. She looked up from her napkin spaceship, her smile as wide as the sun. "Ready to go home, baby?" I asked. She sighed and, without hesitation, put her hand in mine. We didn't say goodbye. We didn't need to. As we passed Dylan, he gave me a gentle nod. No dramatics, no pretense, just a quiet acknowledgement. You were seen. You mattered. I held Ollie's picture in one hand, her fingers in the other. And I walked out of that room with my head held high. Not because I was finally saved, but because I was always enough. They just didn't see it. But I did. And that's all I needed. We often talk about strength as if it looked a certain way, loud, sharp, undeniable. But sometimes strength is silent. It's about showing up when you know you'll be judged. It's about standing firm when no one stands with you. It's about raising a child with love when the world tries to shame you for doing it alone. Bailey Morgan didn't respond to insults. She didn't go out to prove a point. She stayed. She stood. And in doing so, she exposed more than just the cruelty of a room. She exposed the courage that doesn't require being loud to be heard. Madison thought the night was hers, that she could steal the spotlight by humiliating someone. But she didn't realize that true power doesn't come from controlling the room. It comes from speaking the truth without apology. And by standing up in that moment, Dylan reminded everyone that silence can be complicit, but one voice, one honest voice, can change everything. So if you've ever been an outsider, silenced, underestimated for not fitting into the mold, remember this. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't have to pay for your shame. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply not back down. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to share it. If you've ever chosen dignity over drama, comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind us that you don't need permission to take up space. You already belong here. As Bailey walked out into the night, holding her son in her own hand, the air didn't feel cold. A feeling of lightness, as if something had finally lifted. No applause, no grand finale, just truth and the quiet power of being seen. She didn't go away defeated. She went completely. And maybe, just maybe, the next time someone mistakes silence for weakness, they'll think twice. Because sometimes the most unforgettable revenge is living your truth without fear. If you felt like this, please like, share, comment, and remember, your story matters.